All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. That's actually a really fun song by the Bouncing Souls. If anyone remembers that band, I think they're still around. Actually, they're a good band. All right, I'm waiting for everything to wake up. You guys know the drill. YouTube up. Here we go. Rockfin is awake, and YouTube, are you with us? Yes, YouTube is awake as well. We got them both. We got them both. Twitter is alive. YouTube is alive. We are on. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. To everyone in the future, how's it going? Thanks for waking up for the stream. I think it's really early in Australia, New Zealand, all those places. And to everyone listening to the podcast later, I hope everything is going outstanding. Leave a review, would you? Leave a 5-star review if you don't mind. All right, welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. This is the interview show for the week, and I am very excited about my guest today. I've been following her stuff online for a while now. And recently, there was a demonstration in Washington, D.C., calling for the cancellation of student loan debt. We're going to bring her in and then we're going to watch her video too. But please welcome to the show, Afeni. Afeni, what's up?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm stoked to talk to you, and I hope you don't mind. I want to play your video to start off here because you were at this demonstration earlier this week. It was it on Monday? I know I just asked you off air, and I forget what you said.
Yeah, it was Monday. It was all day long Monday.
Brilliant. Well, let's go ahead. I want everyone to get introduced to you initially. If they're not familiar with you already, they're gonna get their first introduction right here because this is 60 seconds of pure fire. I freaking love it. So here we go.
Loan debt out of any demographic group. And we also support 80% of the Black households in America, solely or mainly. So when we're talking about cancellation of student loan debt, we're talking about radically thinking about what it looks like to put financial power back into Black people's hands. That generational tax that goes from mother to daughter, mother to son, we want that gone. So we're asking Joe Biden to pick up that pen, just like he picked up the pen and flicked it to sign the 90s on full crime bill, just like he picked that pen up and flicked it for the Hyde Amendment, just like he picked it up and flicked it to mass incarcerate all the Black and brown people in this fucking country. Then that means they can pick up the goddamn pen and fucking cancel the student loan debt.
Amen. Beautiful. Love it. And you bring up the thing that everybody loves to pretend is not the truth. Joe Biden, with the flick of a pen, as you put it, could cancel student loan debt. He could do it right now. And I mean, what do you think would happen if he did politically? Let's start there. Because I think if he did that politically, he would. Well, I don't know if he's going to run again, but I think Democrats would win the White House again in 2024. I think they would probably even, maintain majorities and increase them in the midterms. It would be such a popular thing to do, but he doesn't do it.
Absolutely. I think he would probably face some, probably political recourse from his colleagues. I think that the
Sure.
people that are in the same political class as him would be pissed off, but the people that voted him in, the people that organized, that people that were canvassing in Georgia to make sure that they actually had the Senate majority that they needed, yeah, they're going to be very happy that they actually got something from this president they were promised that they were going to get. We haven't gotten anything. And I feel like student loan debt, it is a layup. They have not gotten our payments in 2 years, and so clearly they don't need them. And even before the moratorium on student loan payments, almost 50% of the people that had student loans were not paying them anyway. So they were only getting 50% of the money before that to begin with. So at this point, it's just predatory loans, and they just need to be abolished.
So why do you think he's not doing it?
I mean, because this is the same guy that made it so student loans were not dischargeable through bankruptcy. This is the same this was the same guy that was known as like the credit card, senator. Like everybody knows that Delaware has all of the major credit card company headquarters in it. So the reason why he's not doing it is because Joe Biden is being the same Joe Biden he's always been for the past 47 years of his service. And that's another thing that we really need to point out is, all of these promises that were made to us. I mean, we kind of have to hold some of these liberals accountable and some of these other people accountable that forced us into this position of having to support somebody who we knew from the beginning. When we were going against Joe Biden in the presidential primaries, we knew that he was not going to be anybody that was going to deliver any progressive change. He told Wall Street nothing would fundamentally change. So, now I think unless we put on real pressure, and that means not just electoral pressure, that means pressure in the streets, that means being able to actually organize a student debt strike in which nobody is paying student debt. Even after the moratorium ends, and I think it's like August now, they extended it to.
Oh, did they extend it? I didn't even
Yeah,
hear about that. Okay,
it did
I
get
didn't hear
extended.
that.
So, I mean, I guess we got a little marginal win, but it's like, again, if you can extend it again, then you can cancel it.
People don't realize and I know that we've already mentioned this, but we're going to harp on this for anyone who's not sure yet. Like it would lift generations of people. It would lift a huge burden off of their shoulders. And the people who are profiting off of their predatory loans, just putting aside how morally disgusting what it is that they're doing, just even putting that aside, it's this small little group of plutocrats that have judges and politicians by the gullet that benefit off these things. And if it went away tomorrow, they would shrug. They'd be like, okay, maybe that's one less yacht just this year alone. So it is beyond a no-brainer for the goodness of society and from a moral standpoint. And yet they just won't do it. We've seen it's been a moratorium for 2 years and counting. The sky has not fallen. This is a predatory thing that should have never happened. And it's really, making just a predatory opportunity out of the idea of education. What do you call a society that does that?
Honestly, I mean, it's a society that wants people to be stupid. Like they don't want a lot of people to get access to knowledge. They want a lot of people in this country to get access to what it looks like to critically think for themselves and say, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week slaving away for somebody else. Maybe we should have maybe we should have a more democratic workplace and more say in what happens in our lives and what happens with our wages. Maybe we should start to look into other governments and other government structures. They don't want us to be able to do that research. And that is the reason why education has become more and more unattainable, as well as trying to further the racial wealth gap. When affirmative action went through, even though most of the affirmative action has benefited white women, even when affirmative action went through and it looked like Black people were about to get a more equal and fair chance, what did? They hiked tuition up exponentially, because they did not want it to be equitable. Colleges, they went from having $300 tuition to having $30,000 per semester. Some of these places.
It's gotten ridiculous.
So it's just like, who do they expect to afford that? It's definitely not any of the Black people whose generational wealth has been held back from them for the past 400 years. It's definitely not any of the working class people in this country who, whether or not their circumstances don't have the wealth and the extra income to give to a university to get a degree. And even if they do get the loan, now you have a job just to pay back your loans, just to survive. And you're not even doing work that truly fulfills you. So I think the reason why it's most important for us to cancel this debt, number one, is not only to lift people out of the generational poverty, but to give people a chance to live outside of the capitalist model. Like, there are people that don't want to be lawyers and stockbrokers and whatever other like business people or whatever other lucrative jobs are out there. Like some people just want to be able to paint a couple pictures every couple days and do that. They should be able to do that shit. Like I don't understand. I'm just so tired of this standard of wealth, this standard of class that you have to live up to in this country in order to be comfortable. Like people should, like we should all have housing, we should all have access to education, we should all have health care. Like all of these things are layups. And if Joe Biden can flick his pen and approve an $800 billion military budget, then that means that they can start to approve and support things that actually help the American people. Not to say that the Ukrainian folks don't need it. Like we don't, like we are anti-war all day, every day. No invasion, no war, no imperialism, period. But it says a lot when they're investing more into military actions than they are into domestic policy, into domestic infrastructure. And we really, as an American people, need to have a problem with that, because this is our tax dollars and our labor that is creating the capital that makes this global economy go round.
So let's bounce to the event itself some, because I want to talk a little bit about what went down there. How was this organized?
So I had the privilege of organizing with the Debt Collective. We started doing game planning calls. Well, the Debt Collective started doing game planning calls in January.
Hang on, let me jump in real quick here, just to for anyone who's not familiar, what is the Debt Collective?
Oh, the Debt Collective is an organization that was born out of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and they're basically fighting for the cancellation of all debts, really, not just student debt, but this is the current campaign right now to cancel student debt. But they really just believe in a debt jubilee and really resetting and rebalancing the power structure in this country, especially the financial power. And yeah, it was really an honor to work with them.
So they organized the event. You were one of the speakers, and how was it? Like, how was the attendance? Like tell me a little bit more.
Absolutely. So I've been organizing this action with them since January, like I said. So it started off with calls, and I got to really get involved with the local outreach of it. And, even leading up to the event, there was such a good momentum. There were organizations from all over the country that had flown in the week before to canvas and to really get out and talk to people about, and educate them around student loan debt in the DC area. And so the day of, we had a pretty decent turnout. For it to be a Monday, we had a pretty good turnout. And you could really feel the hope. And that's one thing I would say about really loving being an activist and organizer, is when we get to do actions, or we get to come together, we get to tell our stories, we get to experience joy, and we also get to get our goddamn point across. Like that's just one of the best parts. And I just really wish that more people would participate in organizing like this. And I do think that us doing this action and us pressuring the Biden administration really did help push this deadline back. There were talks about it happening prior to this action. But I really think that extra pressure of us showing up to the Department of Education, us making noise, us our action trending on Twitter and other social medias, I think that really helped actually make this change happen. So moving forward, the Debt Collective has talked about doing more escalating actions. So we're really just waiting to see what that looks like. And, don't want to give away the whole game right here, but definitely really excited to see what's coming next. Because again, we can't stop fighting. We can't let up. We can't give up. And the only reason why they try to wear us down like this, the only reason why they ignore us, is because they feel like eventually they'll tire themselves out. Eventually they'll stop. And we just can't do that. We have to keep pushing this system until it breaks. So really excited to organize with them again, hopefully soon. And it was just a really, really great action. We had a lot of good speakers there as well. India Walton was there. We had Kendra Brooks, a representative from Philadelphia, there, talking about having student loan debt and what it looks like to actually cancel student loan debt. So many organizers from the Debt Collective spoke to, the history of Jubilees and how this isn't something that is new that we're asking for. The workers have constantly asked for debt cancellation. They've constantly asked for the balances of power to be rebalanced and to be shifted. So, you know, I just think the more actions we have like this, the more spaces we have like that, the more of a movement we can build to make this cancellation possible.
What brought you to activism?
So I was actually like a party promoter and a full-time college student, and I worked at AT&T full-time 2 years ago.
You did all three of those things
Yeah, so like
at
I was,
once.
because I was trying to pay off college. So I was doing the party promoting
Sheesh.
at night and I was working during the day, and like on my off days I would be in like school. Um
Wow.
so yeah, I before all of this I was doing that, and the George Floyd uprising happened. I usually try to avoid videos of people dying. Like, I know it seems like I'm hard and shit, but I can't do stuff like that. I don't have the stomach to watch people die. So I kind of avoided the George Floyd video when it was first circulating, and um, that Saturday, like after the protest had started in DC, I had finally went and watched the video full through, and I just really, even to this day, I really can't explain like the feeling that I had. But I just knew like I needed to do something with that energy, so I walked out. I went out to DC. After I got off work, I started protesting with them, and then I got put on ABC on national television. So yeah, I was like
Was
yelling at Trump.
that trippy to see yourself?
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I don't even really think I had time to digest it, because that happened, and then like I got put on a bunch of other specials and stuff like that. And honestly, I always tell people, if you go back and you watch like the older interviews with me, like I was like peace police, like reform, like everything is possible. We can all live in harmony, kumbaya. It took 2 fucking weeks of me getting fucked up by the police to become an abolitionist and to say, yeah, no, fuck all this shit. Like it's not gonna work. It's not meant to be equitable. And yeah, like that's kind of how I got started, and I've been grateful to be to have different opportunities, to have like fellowships around like abolitionist learning, to have worked for the Working Families Party, and just really get to grow as an organizer in all these different community spaces. I'm a core organizer with Freedom Fighters DC, an organization that started when the George Floyd movement did, and we've been doing mutual aid in the community ever since. So you know, activism was never anything I expected to do. Like I'm still kind of surprised a lot of the time that I'm here and that this is the work that I'm doing, but I honestly don't feel like I belong anywhere else. And I think that's why in the beginning it didn't feel natural, because I didn't fully click into like where I would like what my role in the movement was, which was not, upholding the system, but actually trying to dismantle it. So
Let's switch gears for just a second then. I want to stay mostly focused on student debt for this, but since it came up organically, um, when people come at me and or I guess just anyone in general online, but in particular if they're just at me directly and they're like, "Well, defund the police." I don't know, man. That's a little scary, and that sounds a bit too far. I'm just sort of sitting there. I'm like, "Well, I'm an abolish the police guy, so I don't know if that's too far. I'm not sure, but like." I guess just being kind of I don't want to use the word pragmatic, but being kind of like strategic about it. How do we kind of package that message so that it doesn't scare people off?
yeah, so I used to organize with a coalition in DC called the Defund MPD Coalition. And one thing I learned in that space was you really do have to flip the messaging.
Mhm.
So worked on language around like refund, like what it looks like to refund the community. And I really think that decentering the police in the conversation is really the most important part. When you ask people what makes you feel safe, police are usually not even in the top 5 things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we have to really redefine what safety looks like. And also, I don't think that people really fully understand that the police do not work. The police, what are they? I think they make arrests in about 11% of crimes, and about 2% of those crimes actually get convicted.
Yeah, they
Um,
solve like 2% of crimes. 2%.
yeah, like 0.5% of rapists actually get convicted. I think it's like around 1 to 2% actually get caught and arrested. We have a 48% recidivism rate in this country. That means 50% of people that go to jail end up going back, not because they're just criminals to the bone, but because most of them get out here, they get treated like a second-class citizen, and they get forced back into the same lifestyle that put them back in jail in the first place.
Because
It's
it's
just
not about rehabilitation, it's about
period.
making money.
Absolutely. And it's really crazy. Like if you failed at your job 50% of the time, they will fire you. So if we are putting our money, our tax dollars into an institution that is constantly failing us, then it is time to start thinking about other alternatives to that. Housing keeps people safe. Drug intervention keeps people safe. Mental health care keeps people safe. Actually having, you know, education that is equitable, that is culturally responsive, keeps Black children especially safe. Having an education that sees neurodivergent children not as a burden, but as children that are able to learn, that just need that extra support, that extra help. And our public school system should be able to provide that with no problem. But we don't have that. Instead, we have a school to prison pipeline that criminalizes our children instead. Instead, we have police showing up to mental health calls and shooting disabled people. Like that's what we have. And if that's what people see as acceptable, then they have to really reevaluate who they are as a person. And I also ask people a lot, like, what are you scared of? What are you scared of happening? Because Professor Paul Taylor says that many people that study abolition and study decriminalization say that if you let out 40% of criminals tomorrow, we wouldn't even fucking notice.
Mhm.
Nothing about society would fundamentally change. So it's not that these people are just so sick. It's not that these people are just so dangerous. It's that we do not provide a society in which safety is possible. We do not provide a society in which violence is not inevitable. And it is. This country creates 70% of the world's serial killers. If that's not speaking to a mental health problem in this country specifically, then I don't know what is. So it's time to start thinking differently about the solutions to making our communities safe, to making our country safe. And unfortunately, y'all, police and the military ain't gonna do it. We've seen it. It ain't working. So what's next?
It's a damn good answer.
I
I
mean,
wish I'm gonna have to clip this out, and the next time someone's like, "What do you mean you're abolish the police?" I'm just gonna play this. I'm just gonna play it. I'm just be like, "Look, this is here. Just listen. This explains it. The system's not working. The system is not working. So it's time to try something new." So getting back to student debt, um, if like let's say student loan debt was canceled, because when you look into all this, and I think we've kind of touched on this, it really kind of is the opposite of what it means to have education in a society. I mean, the purpose of education in a society is for safety, is because it makes a better community for everyone, as you pointed out, is for a better society, especially like, we're told that the United States is a democratic experiment. It really isn't, but we'll call it a pseudo democratic experiment, even though that's still being generous in my opinion. But to have a pseudo democratic experiment be successful, you need people to be educated to make these types of decisions, and you also need their basic needs met. For the idea of democracy to work, everyone needs to have food in their belly, a roof over their head, and clothes on their body so that they can start engaging civically. And guess what? If education is a public good, it's going to be all the better. Because when that doesn't happen, you get stuff like idiocracy, where they're going to start trying to grow vegetables with Gatorade. So, like It's just a no-brainer. And what we've created, what the American society has created, is they've just created a commodification of all of it, where, hey, you're going to go into crippling amounts of debt if you want to get an education. So you're going to just want something that's straight up job training, where you got a better chance of getting a job that's going to get you out of this debt. And there's a damn good chance that you can do everything you're supposed to, and that's not going to happen anyway. And this is by design, because it keeps people settling for less and less, because at least they're treading water.
Yeah, I think that at this point, it's just really a matter of priorities. And it seems as though the priority of the ruling class is to keep us complacent, to keep us docile, which means that it has to be a priority of all of us to fight against that. And it's really frustrating because, it's not to say that I think that if everybody gets, higher education, everyone's going to be a socialist. I mean, do I think that a majority of people would probably support some universal programs just because they'd have a better idea of how some of that stuff works? I mean, yes. Just because every other developed country has it, it's pretty much a no-brainer. The fact that the left in our country can't even get something as basic as universal health care is truly laughable. And all the movements around the world, the left movements around the world, should be laughing at us because this is ridiculous. It truly is.
Well, I think that they're terrified at this point. They laughed for a long time, but now they're just terrified. Like, now they're just like, what are you doing? And I would argue it's not even the left movements in other countries. I think it's just regular people in other countries. People that would just be considered centrist over there, that would be considered radical lefties here, that are looking around being like, I'm not even considered on the left in the country I live in, but I don't think people should die from medical debt. What is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing?
But we're still so exceptional, y'all. We're so exceptional. But yeah, knowledge is not owned by anybody. It's not to be bought and sold. It is supposed to be accessible because it is empowering. It is strengthening when you have your own knowledge, and you can come to your own conclusions, when you can have objective, real, absolute truths in front of you and be able to make your own conclusions from those. That is a very empowering thing. And everybody should have access to that. It should not be a privilege for people that, can't afford it, for people that can be lucky enough to get it just the right grant, or get the right scholarship, or run just the right amount of time. If you run fast enough around a track, you can get a scholarship. No, people should be able to go to school and major in whatever they want, and not feel like they wasted their money because of it. So along with student loan debt, cancellation, we also need to make sure that all public colleges are free, all trade schools are free as well, because not everybody, we don't even talk about the fact that there are people that go to trade schools that also have student loan debt. There are people that don't finish college that also have student loan debt, for a myriad of reasons. So when we cancel student loan debt, we also need to cancel the generational tax on education as well, to make sure that the next generation doesn't accrue something that's similar, to make sure that these companies don't try to catch up on the money that they're about to miss from the cancellation. We need to level the playing field completely. And so that's the reason why I think it's just genuinely important that people join this movement. I think it really is a no-brainer, especially as a Black woman. Black women support 80% of the households, solely or mainly in the Black community. So if we're the group with the highest amount of student loan debt, and we're also the historically the most underpaid, then it is our generational wealth and the family and our family generational wealth specifically that is being held back. I mean, there are a myriad of other reasons as well, but student debt is really crazy, is because they told women like my mom, who has 5 degrees, hey, if you go get this degree, you know what I'm saying, everything will be fine for you. You'll have everything that you want. And it took her 5 degrees, all these hundreds of thousands of student loan debt later, to be able to get into a comfortable place where she is living upper middle class. But how much debt does she have to get in order for her to get there? So it's just really it's really disheartening, because I was in college, but I stopped going to college because I have student loan debt now, and I was trying to work to pay for school. And now that I'm an organizer, I can't work two jobs and go to school at the same time because organizing is time consuming. I love it. It's great. It's great, gratifying work. But if college was free, I would probably be able to go to a couple of classes and actually finish my public policy degree. But I can't do that right now, because my work is just more important. And I just don't have the money. You don't get paid a whole lot to do this at all.
Sure.
So
Well, and I think the most frightening thing is like I have just seen it. I mean, I'm a millennial and I'm like at the older end of millennials. And I have seen it get worse just within my own generation. A younger millennial had it, they were worse off than I was as far as the job situation they were entering out of college and just how, ridiculously expensive college became. So it's happening that fast. And by the way, it wasn't great for my generation either. It's not like, oh yeah, I remember when it was $500 or so. No, that's like my parents. It's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse since then. That's why when you hear the whole, well, just pay off your debt, I paid off mine, and you look at it, it's just like, yeah, you had strong union jobs back then, and college was like a couple $100 a semester. It's a totally different world now. And do you think that if student loan debt does get canceled, will it lead to some of these systemic changes, free college and stuff like that?
Um, I think the only thing that's going to really work at this point is, you know, getting in the street. Like that's it. Like people have
Hmm.
to get in the street. They have to organize, to target. We have to organize, and we have to target the financial nucleus of this country because that's where all the power is. Because, I mean, I'm a black person, clearly. So it's not a popular opinion, but I really just don't think that black people have the privilege of completely checking out of the electoral system, considering that we're such a small minority in this country. And really, when policy decisions come down and they're terrible, they affect us first most of the time. So, and honestly, you're just not going to convince a critical mass of black people not to vote at all, ever.
Hmm.
But do I think that there's a lot of work to be done in organizing around making voting a national holiday? Yes. Do I think there's a lot of organizing to be done around ranked choice voting? Absolutely. And with that, while we're organizing for that, we're organizing a critical mass of people to withhold their vote from, in 2024, when they try to do the same bullshit they tried with Biden and try to force us back into some centrist conservative Democrat that's not actually going to fundamentally change anything. That's when we start to put the pressure on electorally, like, no, so we're not doing that. So it's either you concede to these demands or you're going to lose. Like, that's it. We need to be comfortable putting that type of pressure onto our government. We're in a country that is dictated by policy. And unless people are going to be serious about actually organizing the general strike that we all keep talking about, then we have to look at our options and see what paths are viable for us to win. As an organizer, that's all I care about at this point, is how are we going to win?
Hmm.
And I feel like some of the things that we are asking for, advocating for, they can be easily paid for by this government. And in the beginning of the pandemic, when they wanted to pull $4 trillion out of their assets to support the airlines and whoever the hell else wanted to be bailed out, what they do? They pull that $4 trillion out. That deficit that they keep telling you about, that's just literally all the money that has been spent. Governments are here to create capital. That's what they do. They create the money. They print it.
Hmm.
So if they wanted to print that shit and make the money happen, they do it. So like all these economics professors that keep saying that's not how it works. If you, then they'll crash the money. The U.S. dollar supports 80% of the global economy. I promise you, if we get Medicare for all, give out free college, and if we house everybody in this country, I promise you, ain't shit gonna happen to the US dollar. Like, I'm just so tired of the propaganda. And with that, we really, like, I've been talking more and more about like how we can, use some of like those really old school organizing tactics. Like, one thing that I will say that the campaign world does have right is like that door knocking and like phone banking and direct contact with people. Like, hand out newsletters in your local community. Like, how do we start doing that? Like, how do we start like breaking through the propaganda that is happening through the mainstream media? Because that's what a lot of people's problem is that they watch CNN, they watch Fox News, they watch MSNBC, and they're not even getting half of the story of what is really going on.
Or they're getting the wrong story.
Yeah, or they just get straight state media. So yeah, it's just, I really feel like people need to realize that we live in a fascist country and that we have to organize as such. We live in the most propagandized country in the world. We have to organize as such. And the mainstream media is not on our side. These algorithms are not on our side. All of this shit, if Jeff Bezos, he owns AWS, if they want to shut the motherfucking internet down right now, they can do that. Okay. So at the end of the day, we have to organize in person in our local communities. And I think that when we start to get really serious about that, when we start to get really serious about making sure that we're taking over like local politics, like federal politics, I get it. Everyone want to cuss out the squad. What the hell is your city council doing? Do you even know two of your city council people? Talk. Let's start talking to them. Because local politics influences the national conversation. If y'all pass, so in like, for example, PG County, Maryland, they passed a resolution saying they support Medicare for all. I don't know what the fuck that means if you're not giving free healthcare to everybody in the county, but thank you for the support. But with stuff like that, okay, you support it, now push for the state to give us statewide universal healthcare in Maryland. That's the next step now. But like, it's just stuff like that. And I think that we need to make organizing more attainable for ourselves, because I think that if we start to really focus on the local level and start to connect our movements on the local level nationally, that is how we start to change the national conversation, the national culture around politics. So I'm really hoping that some of these third parties that have been running their mouths the past couple of years starts getting on that work. But those are just some ideas. I don't know.
No, I mean, hey, I think you are, you are 100% right on. I mean, first of all, and this is why I'm such a big fan of yours and everyone who's doing the work that you're doing and the work we're all trying to do. You recognize when you organize that, yes, electoralism is one of the tools for change. And yes, it is a necessary one. I would argue it's an annoying one. You might agree with that. You might not. But I would argue it's a very annoying one. But necessary, nonetheless. A necessary, annoying tool. But first of all, it is only one tool. What are the other tools? Protests, strikes, organization, local engagement, getting involved in your community. And let's not forget that electoralism does involve local politics. I mean, the races that I'm most excited about coming up in general is my city council. There's a young progressive guy who I think has a shot, and I'm trying to do everything I can to help him. And then there's another person running for the state assembly. So everything is local or quasi local, and those are the only things I'm most excited about. I mean, there's a couple people running around the country, but they don't live in. I'm not in their district or even in their state in a lot of cases. Like I'd love to, like the guy, the Green who's running for Senate. I can't vote for him. I don't live in North Carolina, So there's only a handful of races that I'm really excited about that I have a direct involvement in, i.e. I can vote for the person. And that's the most important thing anyway, is really like getting your hands dirty in your backyard.
Yeah, it's really sad because I know, honestly, I feel like rightfully a lot of people are completely disenchanted about
Sure.
the electoral system. They feel like, completely checking out of it. But it's just, like you said, it's just one of the many tools. And it is a necessary step, unfortunately. And in order for us to get the type of political party, the type of political movement that we want, it has to start in the streets, and it has to start in our local communities. And, I think that the people that are saying that, like, things like, oh, like the squad doesn't matter, I don't think that's true. I think that we have to show what it looks like for the left to be actually able to hold our leadership accountable. Period. And to completely, like, let go of the reins and to throw your hands up and give up, I think that that's giving way too much of your power away, especially if people aren't going to use the other tools to our disposal, such as protesting and general strikes.
Yeah.
If y'all can, we can build dual power all day. We can have the mutual aid going. We can talk about what it looks like to build healthcare outside of the traditional healthcare system for to make access. We can talk about what it looks like to build cooperative spaces where we can house people. We can talk about all of that. We can organize all of that, and we should. But all of that organizing is just the bridge. It's the temporary fix, and it's the building of the movement so that we can get that policy through that we want. So it's not to say that we're voting for a Democrat at the end of that bridge. Absolutely not. I would love to vote for a Green or a People's Party candidate if they get their shit together. Or, literally, there are so many parties, a Communist Party candidate, anyone, a DSA. If this DSA actually decided to fucking nut up and become a political party, like, I don't know, like, I would love to vote for these things, to vote for these people, but we have to do that movement work. And, I saw Chris Hedges on Bree's show the other day, and I'm not going to sit up here and disagree with Chris Hedges because, he's Chris Hedges, duh. But, one thing that he did say that kind of irritated me was the fact that he said it's going to take a long time. No, it won't. Like, if we actually dedicated ourselves to doing this work and being serious about it, we could fight the narrative. It's happened before. And now we do have the internet. Now we do have these podcast platforms. Now we do have the capacity to reach out to hundreds of thousands of people at one time and say, hey, like, we want to do a conference, an organizing conference. All the third parties come here. All the third parties come. All of the, all grassroots organizations that are interested all come. We're all going to have a strategizing session about what it looks like to move forward as a left movement.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that. We could so do that. And we should do that because that's how they were doing it before. Like, we can learn so much from looking back at past movements and applying it to a more modern space. But I don't know, like, I'm tired of complaining on the internet. Like, that's not my ministry. Like, that's not what I wanted to do, which is the reason why I quit podcasting in the first place, is because I wanted to make sure that I was focusing on organizing as well as getting the message out. And I, me personally, I just couldn't do both. But yeah.
Well, I know some activists and organizers, like, they don't listen to any of the podcasts, and they especially don't listen to any of the YouTube shows or anything like that, because they're just like, that it's all about just personalities trying to dunk on each other, and everyone's in an air-conditioned studio, whatever. Meanwhile, it's like, we're interested in actual change. And I think that's a bummer because I think media can be used very constructively, and I think it is. I'm certainly not, putting everybody under an umbrella, but yeah, you kind of see that, and it is frustrating. And I watched part of Bree and Chris Hedges too. Now, I only saw a small segment of it, but it was interesting to me because I just found myself agreeing with both of them and wondering where the actual disagreement was. And again, I didn't see the whole thing, so there likely is stuff I'm missing. But out of what I saw, Chris Hedges was basically saying, look, I don't put a lot of stock in these politicians. I don't really expect much. I just hope they vote the right way and they don't take up a lot of space in my head, really. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way to be. That's how I am too. I'm not looking for AOC to tweet tweets that make me feel good. Like I don't care. I don't even follow any politicians on Twitter, and I've muted a lot of them just because I'm sick of seeing their bullshit. But even politicians that are not, like even members of the squad even. And it's not anything malicious. It's just like, look, I'm tired of all this ministry of appeasement tweeting nonsense, and I just don't want it to occupy any space in my head. So I agreed with him. But then when Bree was basically saying, yeah, but we still need to hold them accountable, and we still need to like hold them accountable to the promises they made and what got them elected. I agree with that too. Like I'm like, why do you have to pick one or the other? Why can't it be both? Why can't it be like, look, at the end of the day, you are just one tool in the toolkit for change. And just so you know, my support is not unconditional. You know, and we're watching and we have demands. I mean, why can't it be both? You know?
Because people, I don't know, like I feel like there are a lot of people that have real connections to that to those races because again, you know, phone banking, canvassing, donating, and these were grassroots candidates like that they weren't getting money from big corporations before. They are now, but they weren't before. These are people that were giving their last to these politicians because they believed in what they were saying. They believed in them. So I think that, you know, there is some utility in holding these people accountable because I think that if we completely check out of the electoral system on the left, I mean, we'll see what we're seeing right now. I mean, like the fact that we're debating yet again whether or not gay people are people who deserve human treatment is crazy. Trans kids can't even be themselves in certain states. Women, we're talking again about what it looks like for women to actually have control and autonomy over their bodies. Black people are fighting for the right to vote again. Like I could honestly just go on and on. Like all of these things are happening while we're sitting up here and we're fighting back and forth about all the shit that could be done. And oh well, don't yell at this person and stop being mean to my favorite politician. While y'all are doing all that, the right is organizing and they are advancing their agenda. They're fucking winning. Right now, they just, I mean, and I'm not a super big fan of this Ketanji Brown Jackson that just that's about to get confirmed to Senate to Supreme Court for a couple of different reasons. But the fact that you have Republicans sitting here and badgering her about like coddling child molesters, but then you have Republican lawmakers, and I think in Idaho, that's trying to get rid of the age of consent for marriage.
Oh, I think it's Tennessee. They're doing that.
Like what?
Yeah,
Like, but we're fighting about the dumbest shit. Black people are still getting shot by the police. Like all these things are still happening, and we're arguing about how we should treat politicians. Oh, well, should we yell at them? Blah blah blah. Well, maybe we shouldn't yell at them. What? Like what the fuck? We should hold them accountable for something. And the thing is like I've met and I like most of them. Like I'm not even gonna sit up here and act like I've been very honest about the fact that I've met these people. I have personal relationships with some of them. Like I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend like I hate them. I don't. Do I think that they need to be held accountable in a real way for the lack of action they have taken on, you know, the Amazon labor union, on Medicare for all, on you just pick an issue, and they have dropped the goddamn ball. They need to be held accountable for that. But just to throw all of it away, I feel like it's just to really give up most of our power. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I think your attitude is 100% right on. What I think a lot of people don't realize is that extreme hate, like when you just take like the hate route, hate is basically the same as extreme love, just from the total opposite perspective. So when you take the, oh, well, I'm just checked out and I hate everyone and blah, blah, blah. Well, you're not that much different than the sycophants. You're just the other end of it. And at the end of the day, the result's going to be the same. That result's going to be nothing freaking changes.
Yeah, it's gonna, and people are gonna continue to die. Like that's the thing. And I think that's the reason why when I do talk to, like, I feel like I talk to Corey more than I talk to any of them. And I'm like, yo, people are dying though. Like I understand like how y'all feel about, oh well, we don't want to buck the system and all this other stuff, and I don't want to hurt. I don't want Nancy Pelosi to hate me. Great. I mean, I didn't say like Corey didn't say that, but another one of them said that. No, Corey didn't say that, but another one of them said that shit.
You can tell me which one if you want to. I won't pressure you.
I can tell you off air. I can't tell you on air.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, like Yeah, that's really it. Like I get what y'all saying. I get it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be bullied in your office and shit. But it's not about you, bro. Like I feel like when you took that position, you knew that a sacrifice would have to come with it. You know, you look at
And you're
somebody
getting
like
compensated
Representative Percentage.
well. Yeah.
Hmm?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, it's not like they're doing charity here. I mean, yeah, like they ran on a certain thing. They got elected by us, by we the people, for those reasons. And it's not like, I mean, now they have that position of power. They're getting paid handsomely for it. And we're just saying, hey, what about us? I mean, there's nothing unfair or unreasonable about that.
I don't know. Like the sense of urgency is the reason why I feel like we don't have the luxury of checking out of electoral politics right now.
Hmm.
Like we literally the earth is burning, bro. Like that's happening. And it's only gonna like the only way that's gonna change is if we get some policy to make sure that we cut our dependence on fossil fuels rapidly, quickly, ASAP, yesterday. Like I'm sorry. Like unless you can get a bunch of engineers to quit their jobs today, infrastructure outside of that, which I would love. Let's do that. But
Yeah. Oh, I think you froze up. I think you froze
if
up on me. I think we lost you.
not
Bummer. Okay, we
Hello.
just lost there we go. You're back. Okay, we just lost the past. Yeah, I know you were saying something too. Like little glitches were coming here and there, and I'm like, oh man, she's in the
Oh,
middle of saying something. We're not getting any of it. But yeah, we
oh yeah,
lost you
my
at around
bad.
the time. You were talking about climate change, and then it just went out. The fossil. Someone's watching this. Range Resources is watching this. They're like, cut the feed.
No, for real, but like seriously, like that climate policy is the only way for us to get real substantial climate change. I would love if a bunch of engineers quit their jobs and started creating green technologies and we just said fuck the system, we started doing it on our own. I would love that. But it ain't gonna happen. We live in a capitalist society, y'all. Period. So like I don't know. Like I think that
Uh-oh.
we need to figure out a way to win. Period. And I know that it's not the most popular thing to say, and people feel some type of way about like the whole about the whole electoral politics thing. I feel that, and yeah, you're right. Two parties is not democracy. We should definitely be fighting for a multi-party system. I fight for the representation of people that do not agree with me. But I'm sure there are people on the right that do not fit under the umbrella of the Republican Party, just like there are people on the left that do not fit under the umbrella of the Democratic Party. And we should be able to
Mhm.
have full political discourse from a bunch of different perspectives. But instead, we have a one-party system that is ran by a corporate oligarchy. And the only way that we can change that is probably either through severe and intense and consistent direct action or getting somebody in there to destroy the system from the inside, which means getting to Congress and leaving the Democratic Party. We cannot, like, I'm sorry, but this next slate of progressives that are trying to get elected, and I work for one, they need to leave the Democratic Party. Like, if you are just trying to, get in there to get in there, you live in a closed primary state, whatever, cool. But we need to start differentiating ourselves and our values from this party because we do not agree with this party. And at the end of the day, like I have told Alex to her face, I've told Ilhan to her face, and I've told Corey to her face, the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi especially will continue to disrespect you, will continue to disrespect our values, continue to undermine our policies. Even now, you see the right attacking the Biden administration for being the most socialist leftist. Oh my God. Like, oh, they're so
I
terrible.
wish.
And then you have the right. But then you have like Democratic leadership feeding into that messaging by saying, oh, well, we're the fund the police party and we don't do socialism and all that shit. Like, you're pretending like there was ever any effect Like there was never any policy. There was no change. The progressives being there did not change the party at all. So why are we why even respond to something that does not exist? And they need to keep the facade. They just need to keep the facade going. And it's just so frustrating. So I really we need to challenge power. And again, there are so many different ways to, politically engage, but I just think that we need to start thinking differently about how we engage with our electoral system. But just completely quitting and pretending like it doesn't matter. I don't see how we win. I don't see how that.
So
it came back.
Yeah, no, you're coming back. Yeah, sorry. So we're having some connectivity issues, but yeah, fortunately we're pretty much at the end of the interview. So Afeni, are you there? Are you there? Because yeah, I can hear you. You're coming in and out actually. I was gonna ask you to kind of plug everything here for the send off. Are you there? I think we got you back. Hello? We might have lost her. Wait, no,
It's
there
my
you go.
FBI agent. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now. So just tell everyone where they can learn more about you. I mean, fortunately, we're pretty much at the end, so that's good. But yeah, tell everyone where they can learn more about you.
Yeah, so you can follow me everywhere at Red with 2 D's is Ari. My FBI agent is listening hard, y'all. So I guess that's the reason why the connection is going weird. But yeah, honestly, you can just follow my work there. A lot of my stuff is on Twitter. I promise I won't get my Twitter suspended again. But yeah, so please definitely follow me on there. And I'm really hoping that I can see all y'all in the streets, because that's really, really, really where change is going to happen. We have to be brave enough, courageous enough to take action to our own hands and change the system ourselves. Abolition is so creative, so we can create whatever the fuck we want, and that's the most beautiful part about it. So please, read your books, drink your water, plant your food, and get ready for the revolution.
Right on. Afeni, I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, look forward to talking with you again, I hope. So I hope you'll come back. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Afeni, she's awesome. Sorry we had some connectivity issues there for a little bit, but we powered through it. And yeah, she's doing amazing things. Let me go to the chat here before we sign off. Shira Cruz, what's up? If Biden doesn't cancel student debt, we should all agree to stop paying. How do we organize to do that so that not just a few of us are putting ourselves at risk? That's an excellent question. And I would say organizations like the Debt Collective, I feel like it starts there. I feel like it starts with some of the organizations that are really at the forefront of this fight, and thank goodness for them. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, though. I mean, that's been brought up before, where people are like, well, what if we just don't pay? And it's like, yeah, but what if only some people do that, some don't, and then it kind of screws a lot of people over. It's a rough place to be. That's why these movements are so important, and hopefully they're going to cancel it here. Christine, what's up? Thank you so much for the heart. I appreciate that very much. I hope you all enjoyed the chat today. Tyler over on the Rockfin, what's up, Tyler? I hope you're doing well. Ron, I want to go to UMass Danhurst, and the cost, even with the grant, is way more than we made than we made to live in. I'd say delete the debt. Absolutely, Tyler. I'm with you, and I hope you get to go to UMass Amherst. I hear that's a wonderful college town. I've never been to Amherst, but I hear it's beautiful. I've been to Boston, and I've been to the Cape Cod area because that's where my wife's from. And then I think I've been to the trade station. What was that other town in Massachusetts? Anyway, it's not important, but I have not been to Amherst, but I've heard great things. And Tyler, thank you so much for the Rockfin tip. You help keep the show on the air. I really appreciate that, and I wish you all the best in getting to UMass Amherst. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Shira and Christine over on the YouTube, and Tyler over on the Rockfin. And guys, tour dates, I got them. Go to romplico.com. I'm leaving in a couple weeks. The days are counting down, and I'm so excited. April 16th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. April 18th, Toronto. April 20th, Ottawa. April 21st, Montreal. April 22nd, Burlington, Vermont. April 23rd, Portland, Maine. April 24th, Boston. April 25th, New York City. You can get tickets for all those shows at romplicone.com. Chris Moen's going to be opening those dates, and Lauren Ashcraft will be on the show in Pittsburgh and New York, and Jill Stein's going to be joining me for a tune in Boston. So it's going to be a fun time. You can get your tickets now at romplicone.com. Also, if you want to support this show on the sustainability end, patreon.com/romplicone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You get patron streams, you get patron Zoom shows, and I'll make you a theme song, and that's all for a give what you can level. I'm trying to get to the 300 mark. Even $1 a month goes a long way. I know times are tough, but hey, if you got an extra $1 a month, you're like, hey, I won't miss that $1 a month. Patreon.com/romplicone. Please do consider it. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being part of this. Check out Afeni. Follow her at Red is Ari, 2 D's there in red. And her Twitter handle is also in the description here. And we'll be back tomorrow with the headline show. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. And I say peace, love, a general strike, and cancel student loan debt. Cancel all the debt and abolish the police and general strike. Lucy still saying meow. Peace.